to bring in right now someone who has a bill that says to defund it, Congressman Marsha Blackburn. Congressman, very nice to hear from you.
Good to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You know, you are one of my favorite people in Washington. I don't like a lot of people down there. You're one of my favorite.
Well, I appreciate that. And, Charles, I have to tell you, my bill is the bill to delay.
Delay. Okay,
Obamacare.
I'm glad you fixed that because
yeah.
you know, when they told me defund, I said it didn't sound like that would be the route you would take. But tell us why delay instead of defund.
Yes, and my bill number is HR 2809. And the reason you want to delay it is this. When you delay Obamacare for a year, you delay all taxes, fees, penalties, all mandates, all programs. And once you delay it, which now that it's the law, it requires a statutorial action to be able to delay it. The president can't just waive off part of this law and not the other. It's the law. You implement the whole thing. So to not implement it requires that you delay it. And then you can come in and defund it and prohibit them from reprogramming money. And right now, our continuing resolution predates Obamacare. So in order to stand it up, what they've been doing is reprogramming money within the continuing resolution. So when you delay it, then you set the framework in which you can defund it and then prohibit the reprogramming of that money and then get back to work repealing and replacing this thing.
So, and also, Congressman Blackburn, would this also take you past the elections by delaying it, or it takes you right up to the elections where you can maybe have a change and a shift of power in the Senate and maybe bolster your numbers in the House? I mean, that would be the logical game plan. I guess also, because I interviewed Jim DeMint a couple of days ago, earlier in the week, and he's defund for sure, and he's also defund to the point where if Republicans don't want to defund it, stand up and be held accountable for it. So, does this kind of stuff help you guys at all?
Well, what I want to do is make certain, first of all, that we end Obamacare, that we just get rid of this thing. And I think what we have to do is be smart about it. And we know that you can go in and take a vote and delay things, but we don't need to be fighting among ourselves. I think it's a four-step process. You delay it, you defund it, you repeal it, and then you replace it with reforms that are pro-market, patient-centered, that the American people want to see. We all need to be on the same team on this.
Right.
The delay provisions have made sense to me. This is a bill, it's not a long bill. It's only 2 or 3 pages. But, Charles, it's something that we started working on with Treasury to say, okay, how do we get the whole ball of wax here? Because you don't want the taxes to go into effect and have them collecting medical device taxes and excise taxes on insurance. You want that to go away or to be put aside.
Right.
You don't want your Medicare enrollees in your hospitals to be disenfranchised. What you want to do is make certain that this thing, that you put it in such a position that you can continue to point out what's wrong with it, repeal it, and get it off the book.
Let's talk about step 4 for a moment, because another one of your old colleagues, Newt Gingrich, came out and said Republicans are making a huge mistake because all they do is, dismiss Obamacare, and they talk about how bad it is and delay it, defund it, ditch it, but they haven't come up with an alternative, and that's been a big mistake in their whole game plan.
Well, I disagree with him. We have lots of bills. I have the across state line purchase of health insurance piece that is out there that would completely remove Title I of Obamacare and put what Newt himself has called the Travelocity concept of health insurance in place. It would also allow portability. Individuals that get a health insurance product that they like, they can keep it and take it from job to job. They won't be forever having to change their health insurance every time they change a job, change their network of doctors and things. We think that is just smart. It saves money. It saves time. it delivers better outcomes of health care. Also, my colleague, Congressman Phil Rowe from up in East Tennessee, has led a working group of about 6 or 7 of us that are in the Republican Study Committee. We have a plan that we're introducing that is a combination of several of our bills that we have had that deals with replace, dealing with tort reform, dealing with accountability for insurance companies, making certain that patients retain their access to their physician.
But how important, though, is it? Because, okay, you've got a bill, and since Newt made those comments, a lot of other people said, hey, I got a bill, hey, I got a bill. So how important is it that you guys, and you got to have a sense of urgency, I would suspect, at some point, come together, cobble these things together, get it on one page, get one message, and somehow get someone to get out there and sell it. It feels like that's a big hurdle with a very short timeline.
Well, it is, and bear in mind, we have been pushing our proposals forward since before Obamacare came to be. We go back to 2006 when we passed a lot of these provisions in the House, sent them to the Senate, and the Senate couldn't get cloture to go to a vote on tort reform and medical liability issues and a string of things. So, Charles, our timeline is short. We are going to spend the bulk of September working on our bill that we are rolling out that does combine a lot of these provisions that I've talked about under one umbrella. That is our Republican Study Committee bill that we'll be bringing out when we go back in September. And I hope that people, that your listeners, will hang in here with us on it and follow us. My bill to delay Obamacare 2809, they can go to cosponsor.gov. That is a citizen co-sponsor site. They can click on to co-sponsor that bill and help us send a message to people in Washington, D.C. This is an alternative. They can stay in touch with me at blackburn.house.gov. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter. When we have the text of the bill finalized, then we will have it posted and people can read it, and it can help spread the word.
Well, here's the thing. I got to tell you something. This was never a popular bill/law. Nancy Pelosi was wrong. The more we know about it, her and President Obama, the more we know about it, the more we dislike it. And this week alone, the UPS kicking off 15,000 spouses. The University of Virginia, there's some scuttlebutt on Wall Street that AT&T may do the same thing. These are gargantuan companies kicking their spouses off. We already see where businesses, particularly big businesses, have been given a pass for the next year. We see where insurance companies, because they say they had a problem with their computers, okay, that they've been allowed an extra year to raise prices, and some of them don't even have limits on this. I mean, nothing is going the way of Main Street on this thing. It seems like it would be an easy sell. Are you starting to get anyone from across the aisle to have this sort of epiphany and say, you're right, this thing is not going to work?
Well, you're exactly right, and I think even the president has agreed that provisions of the bill need to be delayed. Employer mandate, out-of-pocket expenses, Medicare cuts. He has done that. He's agreed. He signed 2 bills that we passed to repeal it. People are looking at this and the impact that it is having and the disruption it is going to cause in the health insurance marketplace, and are saying, wait a minute, this is why we continue to run our bills to repeal Obamacare. Because every time we run a bill, and yes, we've done it 40 times, and we'll do it 40 more, because we pick up support every time we take that bill to the floor.
Do you feel at this particular point, whether let's say delay just doesn't work yet, but do you feel at this particular point, 2016, that this will be the number one topic?
I do.
Yeah.
I certainly do, and I think delay will work. Like I said, the president has already said a lot of this needs to be delayed.
Right.
But he can't do this the way he's trying to do it, at his discretion or by executive order.
Well, so far he's been getting away with it, though. I mean, it's crazy. He wakes up one day and says, you know what, check that part off the law. The president's just amending laws on his own.
What we did was to say, no, you can't do that. You have to come to Congress. We passed the bill to delay the employer mandate and put the individual mandate with it, and then we have my bill that will delay the whole thing. And it is the smart thing to do, and I think because of the way the president's trying to pick and choose what he wants to actually enforce or not enforce, and that he is going to agree with this.
Right.
So we're going to continue to push it forward.
You know, I got to tell you, I happen to agree with you. I think what you're doing is brilliant because I think the president is looking for an escape hatch on this thing. I really do. I mean, if we hear next week that AT&T, let's just say that they kick off 40,000 spouses. Can you imagine? I mean, even the mainstream media who tries their best to cover up for the president, they will not be able to ignore these kind of numbers. People getting kicked off the program. That means if you're kicked off, you can't see the doctor that you had a great relationship with. You don't know what your insurance is going to be. Taxpayers may have to front pay for you. I mean, to me, I think what you're doing is brilliant. I think the president, I think I've heard him actually ask for you guys to go the delay route because maybe he'll save his own skin going this route.
Well, one of the things that people are realizing is when the president said, if you like what you have, you can keep it, that is not turning out to be the truth. And they realize that. And people are very frustrated. And I tell you something else that's going to have an impact. Let's say that next week they kick off those spouses, and then what happens if the week following it comes out and your unemployment numbers have gone up?
Well,
that's going to have an impact also, and I know that you are watching that one every day.
You know what? I know that Obamacare is going to be a 2016 topic, but the economy is got to be like directly behind it. Just what we saw this week in earnings, and Gallup has their own tracking unemployment numbers. In the last 30 days, their rate went from 7.7% to 8.9%. Now, it doesn't necessarily correlate with the official government number, but it does feel like there's a serious malaise in this country and that we're falling apart. You know, before I let you go, I talked about this already with a couple other guests. Infighting within the Republican Party, the Christie-Rand feud seems to have exposed a fault line, if you will. Is that going to harm you guys? Can that be repaired?
No, I think most people look at it, and I'm out in my district and holding listening sessions and meetings with groups, and what most people say is they look at this and they think, well, at least the Republican Party is a party that welcomes diversity in opinion. And it's not people that are walking lockstep and are saying, oh, this is wonderful, and supporting bad ideas. They kind of appreciate the fact that we've got 9/12 groups and Tea Party groups and all groups that are focused on a more conservative approach, a smaller government approach, and they really think it's pretty healthy. I agree with them.
It certainly goes against the narrative of the mainstream media that there's a monolithic, one single-minded party without imagination. In fact, it's got a tremendous amount of imagination. I happen to think it's healthy for the party as well, as long as it doesn't boil over. And I also think that you're healthy for the party. And I really appreciate you taking the time out and talking to us about this. You enlightened us about a lot of things I'm sure the listeners didn't know. And we hope to have you back on real soon, Congressman Blackburn.
Awesome. Good to be with you. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right.